friends, welcome to Storytime. Today we're going to read this really cool book called Pedal Power by Alan Drummond. My name is Becca Tiemann and I am the owner of Becca's Book Box. I love to share with you my favorite stories, and so today we're going to read Pedal Power, how one community became the bicycle capital of the world. Does anyone know what city in the world has so many bikes, where there are bikes everywhere? It's like the thing to do when you visit there. Let's read to find out. Pedal Power. And this is based on a true story. Today, if you visit the city of Amsterdam in the Netherlands, so in Europe, you'll see people on bicycles buzzing about everywhere. Over canal bridges, down narrow streets, across busy roads, ding, 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 to school, to work, to shop, to visit friends, all kinds of bikes. Do you like to ride your bike? In Amsterdam, they ride bikes everywhere. Thousands of bikes, more bikes than cars. Ding, ding. Amsterdam is known worldwide as the capital city of cycling. Cars and trucks are allowed on the streets, but they have to drive carefully. Bikes rule the road. Ding, ding. Now that's pedal power. Do the streets in Amsterdam look different than our streets? Can you tell from the pictures what's different about their streets? But it wasn't always like this. In the 1970s, Amsterdam, like most big cities, had a lot of vehicle traffic, and the roads were starting to become too dangerous for cyclists. You're too old-fashioned. Speed up. So how did Amsterdam become the bike capital of the world? Well, it took some very special people to make that happen. Young moms like Marchie Rutten and her friends and their children. Look, Mom! I wonder what they're going to do. This book is a really good example of cause and effect. What did these moms do that had such an effect on the city of Amsterdam? Every day, Marchie and her son saw fine old buildings being destroyed to make way for gigantic highways. Extra wide streets and long dark tunnels were built for all the new vehicle traffic, but there was no space for bicycles. Crossing the huge busy roads by bicycle became almost impossible. Ding ding, screech crunch. Taking a bike to school or work or to visit friends was a dangerous thing to do. What can they do? Something's wrong, said Marchie. The roads belong to all of us, not just cars and trucks. Her friends agreed. Cities like Amsterdam need bikes. Everyone began to speak up. Word got around and the people started protesting, not just in Amsterdam, but all over the Netherlands. At first, the demonstrations were great fun. People even held parties in the middle of the road. Give us back our streets, they cried. Beep, beep. Crowds gathered outside the Dutch Prime Minister's house. They chanted songs and called for change. Children banded together and proclaimed that some roads should be closed to make play streets. Television and newspaper reporters loved all the stories. The protests seemed like great fun. Then one terrible day, a different story appeared in the news. A young girl cycling to school had been killed by a car. The child's father, Vic Langenhoff, was a newspaper reporter, and he wrote something that hardly anyone could believe. This year, 500 little kids had been killed on the roads of our country. Many of them were just riding bikes. It was true. The situation was deadly serious. Something had to be done. Now, this happened a long time ago, so a lot has changed to protect children and families from riding their bikes. Now everyone was angry. The marches got noisier. More and more people came out onto the streets to demand safe places to walk and cycle. Meanwhile, drivers were angry too. The country was running out of fuel, and the government announced a new regulation: no cars in Amsterdam on Sunday. And that gave Marchie an incredible idea. "We'll cycle through the big new tunnel. We'll show them," she said. "But it's against the law. The tunnel is only for cars," her friends cried. "That's exactly the problem," said Marchie. "We need to take back the roads." The streets of Amsterdam were silent when Marchie, her friends, and their children gathered at the mouth of the tunnel. "We can't," someone said. "Who knows what will happen to us?" "What do you think's going to happen? They're breaking the law." "Why are they doing that?" "It's never okay to break the law." But I think they really want to show that bikes are important in their city and that they want a safe way to travel. Woohoo! Ding, 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 pedal power. But Marchie was determined to do it. "Let's do it. Today's the day," she shouted, and they all set off into the darkness. The sound of bicycle bells echoed off the tunnel walls. Down, down, and along they went. What's gonna happen? Dun, dun, dun. As they rode toward the brightness at the other end, they saw policemen and flashing lights waiting ahead. "It's the cops," someone shouted. "Let's turn back." "Keep going," said Marchie. She stood on her pedals and pushed on. I think when you do something like Marchie's doing, you have to own it. You have to take responsibility for what you're doing. The police had blocked the road. "This is a cars-only tunnel," they said. "You cyclists have broken the law." What do you think Marchie's gonna say? The officers lifted up the children in their little bikes and put them into police cars. "It's just not safe," they said. Back at the police station, everyone was served lemonade and cookies. "That's strange," thought Marchie. And she noticed that the policemen were smiling just a bit. That wasn't so bad. Maybe all of this protesting is working, she thought. And she was quite right. That day was just the beginning. Marchie and her friends came up with lots of good ideas to allow bikes, people, and cars to share the streets peacefully. They proposed special new bike lanes on busy routes, and new laws giving bikes the right of way over cars. And finally, people listened. Amsterdam led the way, and that's why it's the bike capital of the world. Today we see these ideas work all over, from Tokyo to New York City and all over China. The city of Paris, France, had 18,000 bikes available for people to share. London, England offers 8,000. In the United States, Chicago has nearly 5,000 bikes available. And Shanghai, China offers 50,000 for visitors and residents to ride. And cycling keeps you fit. A bike is quiet. It takes up less road space. And of course, it doesn't pollute the air. A bike doesn't need fuel. Our legs do it all. And what happened to Marchie Rutten? Well, today her name is Marchie van Putten, and you can still see her whizzing around the streets of Amsterdam on her bike. Now that's pedal power. In the back of this really cool book, you can read even more about how they got bikes to be such a special part of Amsterdam and how they made it safer for kids and people and families to ride. So you can read even more. And then if you love this book, there's Energy Island and Green City that you can read about as well. So thank you for joining me for Storytime. I hope you enjoyed this really powerful book about bikes, and I can't wait to see you next time. Happy reading!